Teaching aptitude. Teaching. Teaching is an essential part of education. Right? Now here, the special function of teaching is to impart knowledge. The function of teaching to impart knowledge, right? Giving the exact definition for teaching is impossible. So let us know the two different meanings of teaching. The one is autocratic meaning, other is democratic meaning. Now, autocratic meaning means this we can call it as task-centered traditional theory of organization. Traditional theory of organization. Right? Here, teacher plays an active role. He thinks that students are like clay. So, he just tries to mold that clay into desired manner. Okay? And here, teacher never cares about the interest, abilities of students. Okay? So this we call it as task-centered traditional theory of organization. Here only teacher plays an active role. He thinks that a learner, that is student, he is like clay and he is there to mold that clay into the desired way by imparting knowledge, etc. And here he never cares about whether that particular student is interested in that particular topic or not, what are his abilities, etc. Now the second one is democratic meaning. So this we call it as a relation-centered theory of human organization. Here, teacher as well as learner both will play an active role, right? That is, there is free interaction between the teacher and a learner. So they both are equally active in class and they influence each other. They influence each other. Okay? Here, learners, that is students, are openly, they ask questions. The student has the freedom to ask question, to express their opinions. Okay? Here the student is free to ask questions, express his opinions. Here teacher modifies students' behavior. Okay? And teacher welcomes happily all the opinions, questions that come from the student. right? In such a way, if we go for the definition of teaching, there are number of definitions related to the teaching, right? Now, if we take some definitions, one by Ned A. Flanders, he says that teaching is an interaction process, and this interaction means the participation of both teacher and student. Here both are benefited by this. Okay, now this interaction takes place for achieving desired objects, right? So according to Flanders, teaching is nothing but an interaction process. Now next, if we take the definition given by Thomas Green, according to him, teaching is the task of teacher. Teaching is nothing but task of teacher, which is performed for the development of the child. Here the main role of the teacher is to get an overall development of a child. Okay, the task of teacher is, which is nothing but to perform the development of the child. So now next step, if we take the definition of Clark, so according to him, teaching refers to the activities that are designed and performed to produce desired change in people's behavior. So according to him, teaching means nothing but that particular activities which are designed and performed to produce some desired changes in students' behavior, right? So these are the some of the definitions related to the teaching. Okay, now next, here if we know about who, whom, why, where, what, how and when to teach, then that teaching becomes effective, and that teaching brings a desirable change in students' behavior, right? So first, who? So here, who means who is to teach. Who has to teach? Who has to teach? A teacher has to teach. Who has to teach? A teacher has to teach, right? First, before a teacher teaches, he must know about his strengths as well as weaknesses. So before he start teaching, he must be aware of his strengths and weaknesses. He must become a role model or a good model to the students. Who has to teach? A teacher has to teach. So before he teach, he must be aware of his strengths and weaknesses, and he must be a good or a role model for his students, right? This is the first one. Now second one, whom to teach. Second one, whom to teach. Okay. to teach. Whom to teach? To the student or the child is to be taught. The child is to be taught. So first here, before a teacher is teaching the child, the teacher must understand thoroughly about child's abilities, right? Now next, aptitudes, attitudes, manners, right? Before he teach the child, he must know about his abilities, aptitudes, attitudes, and manners and temperaments, and accordingly cater to the individual differences of students. Now third one, why to teach? The third one is why to teach. Okay, so why to teach means the aim of education itself is to develop a harmonious personalities. The aim of education itself is to develop a harmonious personalities, right, who are culturally refined. Okay, next, the teaching must make a student emotionally stable, okay, ethically sound, right, mentally alert, morally upright, physically strong, socially efficient, and spiritually enlightened. Here, why to teach means the main aim of education itself is to create a harmonious personalities. The student must be emotionally stable, he must become ethically sound, mentally alert, morally upright, physically strong, socially efficient, as well as spiritually enlightened. Right? Now next, where to teach? The fourth one is where to teach. Where to teach means, as we know, schools are there for teaching. Okay, generally schools, not only the schools, but also the teaching can be continued in all that places where the men of tomorrow are trained to take their place as enlightened citizens in society and contribute to the national development. The teaching means not only in schools we do, but at that particular places also where the men of tomorrow are trained to make them an enlightened citizens in the society. Right? Now the next thing is what to teach. The next thing is what to teach. Okay? And now what to teach means the teacher first he must have the mastery over the subject he teaches. whatever he is teaching, either about the moral values related to science, related to the history, whatever it may be, whatever he teach, the teacher must have mastery over his subject. Okay. Next, how to teach. How to teach. Now, how to teach means the teacher must use new teaching, learning technologies. His teaching must be effective. His teaching must be inspirational. His teaching must be effective. His teaching must be inspirational. Next one, when to teach. So, when to teach means some appropriate steps need to be taken by the teacher to develop motivation of a student in the entire work. Alright? So, here the teacher must create an environment, that is, he have to motivate the student for learning and to know the things which the teacher is imparting on him or teaching him. Then only he must start teaching. Okay, so this is about her teaching. Okay, so here if we know very well about who, whom, why, where, what, how and when, then that teaching becomes effective. Okay, and that teaching improves the abilities, the knowledge of the student.